Yes, 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 yes. We cut it a little short there. Welcome, 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 ladies and gentlemen, to another live stream. Shout out to Q Dog in the house. Shout out to Covert Wolf. Covert Wolf. Yeah, you're covert, but I know who you are. Golden Jones, shout out, shout out, shout out to everyone in the house. Aaron B in the house. Shozan says hashtag team movement meditation. Okay. Body work, Tai Chi. Salute, 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 salute. And I believe we had the granddaddy himself, Solo TV 84 in the house, the Snow Bunny Whisperer, and so on and so on. Today, we're asking a simple question. We're answering the question. We're assuming somebody asked. Somebody whispered in our ears and said, why should I meditate? And then I said in the title, why you should meditate. Part one, concentration. There are three parts to this series. The first part is concentration. The second part is going to be equanimity, which is relaxation, not being perturbed, being able to float, being able to swim, right? Get the metaphor? And then the third part is sensory clarity. So today we're going to go straight into it without any wasting of time and talk about concentration. Okay? And now the way we're going to talk about this is obviously we're saying that concentration is developed in any meditative practice and that concentration is of value, but we're not going to just assume that it is obvious what the value of concentration is. We are going to elucidate the word, talk about the domain in which concentration consists. What does concentration consist in? What is it useful for? Whether it be in terms of learning or execution, in the intellectual pursuits or in the physical or artistic realms. What is the use of concentration? And then we're going to talk about how you develop the concentration, what you actually do. You say, hey, why should I do curls, bicep curls? And I say, well, it develops your biceps, and biceps are useful for doing this, that, and the other. And here's how the bicep curl actually helps the bicep. Is what we're doing here. We keep things simple, we keep things measurable, we keep things intuitive and actionable in this channel. Hence, when somebody says meditate, it should be similar to somebody telling you to go exercise, and they should be able to tell you which muscle group you're exercising and what the benefit of it is. If they cannot tell you in a few words, albeit requiring some more elucidation, but if they cannot tell you in a few words, if they keep on going on and on and on about the unification of the chakras and the oneness of the being of the whatever, they're not really helping you. If you are in this channel, that is, if you are listening, if you like this channel at all, then you don't have time to waste with people who are not telling you things directly. Let me go and deal with my own spirituality by myself. Okay? But I want to hear from you as clear as possible in a very simple, measurable, intelligent, actionable, intuitive way what exactly it is I am doing here. If you cannot tell me, then you do not understand. If you don't understand, you're BSing me, and I don't like to be BS'd. Okay? So, we're going to write down a few words that are synonymous or that come up when one talks about concentration. What is the use of concentration? That is, one word that comes to mind is focus. And focus is the ability to isolate things. Shout out to Red Sings the Blues in the house. Red Sings the Blues in the house. You guys should definitely check out his channel. I'm sure you guys are already quite familiar with the fellow musician out here doing his thing. Red Sings the Blues. All right, Ramil Amir. Ramil Amir, Ramil Amir, Ramil Amir says facts. He says, this is facts. Meditation enhances mental focus. Okay, so the first thing is focus. Focus is the ability to isolate. We're just talking generally about what is the domain in which concentration consists. Later on, we'll tie concentration to meditation. So I'm not just telling you, hey, it increases your concentration. No, we will see why it does so. We will see, just like the way we're talking about the biceps and the curl, okay, we'll see why it does so. There are three things, and there will be a three-part series. This part is concentration, the next part will be equanimity, and the third part will be sensory clarity. Now we're talking about concentration, and we say focus. Focus has to do with isolating things, okay? Now, whether you are doing something in the physical domain, like playing basketball, or whether you are working on gripping something, you have to know, for example, if we stick with the gripping analogy, you have to know where your grip strength lies. Your grip strength is not between your pinky and your thumb. This one is not so strong either. The first two fingers and the thumb is where you have the majority of your grip strength. So the ability to focus, isolate, and then control, okay? Because focus and perception precedes control. Let me get a one in the chat if that sentence makes sense. You need to be able to perceive something, concentrate on something, focus on something, isolate something, if you're going to be able to control it in many, many, many different ways, which we'll circle around. But let me get a one in the chat if you understand this idea that perception precedes control, control of any kind. So we're saying that focusing has to do with isolating. I just said something about grip strength. We're staying within physical prowess right now. And I said, well, you're going to need to be able to isolate and concentrate and know that your first three fingers are where the majority of your grip strength is if you're gripping and hanging for your dear life, or you're mountain climbing or doing something like that. So the ability to be able to isolate something. Okay, we just talked about physical stuff. In the realm of intellectual pursuits, the same thing. You have some kind of natural phenomenon. Okay, some kind of natural phenomenon. Maybe it's the nature of human interaction, something that's that kind of complex. Or maybe you're trying to figure out a simple system of pulleys or something mechanical, let's say. Or let's say it's the economy, or let's say it's your business. You're trying to figure out the right inputs and what the outputs are. You're trying to optimize a certain output. Whatever it may be, you need to be able to disaggregate, and that'll be the third word here that I'm going to use. Okay, disaggregate. This is all still under concentration. Okay, but these things have different flavors, and the flavors help to understand the multifaceted nature of this word concentration. Okay, first of all, we need to focus on something, take it out of the background and put it into focus, just like a camera, put it into the foreground. With this, we can now control that thing. In the realm of mental activities, you need to be able to break down your business into, well, maybe 4 parts. Maybe you're looking at the man hours, you're looking at the expenses, you're looking at the profit margin, you're looking at, in other words, you need to be able to take this ball of stuff called business, right? Right? Q Dog Incorporated, Solo Incorporated, whatever it may be, and you need to be able to concentrate on the different parts in order to form an analytical model. Okay, so what I'm talking about here is for anybody who needs to do this for the first time. In other words, somebody who is coming up with a concept for the first time needs to just look at something which is a mass of undifferentiated parts. Okay, you don't know what it is, you don't know how it works, but you need to be able to start slicing it down mentally. And in order to do that, you need focus. You need to focus on it. You need to be able to disaggregate and disambiguate because things are ambiguous. Okay, you need to be able to disambiguate this thing, make certain parts of it conspicuous, hold them in your mind, see how these different parts interrelate with the other parts, quantify the relationship if possible, come up with equations for the relationship if possible, even, right? In order to do any kind of mental activity. We already talked about how it is important in terms of physical activity. It takes a lot of concentration, which, by the way, also goes with relaxation. And that is one thing that we will touch on here. Let's just put a star over here and write in a different color relaxation. that when you're actually concentrating, you're relaxed. If you're not relaxed, you're not concentrating. What you're doing is you're tightening up and you're trying to get a hold of something. That's not concentration. That's just you being very inefficient, wasting a lot of energy trying to hold on to something. What you need to do when you're trying to hold on to something is you are actually relaxed. You don't believe me? Well, you do believe me because you know this intuitively, but let me give you a visual. Just one word. A sniper. Is a sniper relaxed? Yes or no? One, for a sniper, if you think he's relaxed. Two, if you think he's not relaxed. We already know he has high concentration going on. We already know he's able to focus on these different and disaggregate these different parameters. Parameters being the distance, the wind speed, the arc of the bullet that's going to take, which is affected by the distance, and so on and so forth. He is highly concentrated. But let me get a one in the chat if you think he's relaxed, or two, if you think he is not relaxed and he's clenching his teeth and he's, okay. So we understand, even though it may not seem directly intuitive, that concentrated state is a relaxed state because we don't tend to think about it that way. Because when we think concentration, we tend to think, but no, that's not concentration. That's not mastery. That's some little boy stuff. Okay. The real masters, the real snipers out there, the real people who know what they're doing, okay, when they are in the zone, making those free throws, all net, all net, all net, all day, there is no perturbation going on. There's a high level of concentration and a high level of looseness. When you're highly loose and highly concentrated, and both of them go hand in hand, there's almost nothing you cannot do. So, what are we saying here? We're saying the answer to the question why you should meditate is that number one, it gives you concentration. The other things we'll talk about in the next part or the next parts. Okay. But so far, we're trying to talk about what the domain is that concentration exists in. We say, well, you need to be able to focus on something. We say that focus precedes control, that you cannot control things unless you're focused on them. And let me see if I can read something here of what's going on here to keep things interactive, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, Ike thought about a virtual whiteboard that you could screen share. Totally. Yes, 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 yes. I'm doing that. And also for my Prometheus engineering channel, I'm going to be using that so that it'll make the videos over there definitely better, quicker to produce so that I can be more prolific with it. Definitely, 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 because this probably gets hard to read. It's highly low tech. But I definitely want to keep with the writing, so I'll use a virtual whiteboard because there's something about the writing that I actually believe in versus typing it out and giving you a presentation like that. So he's gonna have to watch the stream again, Vin M. I'm assuming it's a he or a she or a Z. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about why you should meditate. It gives you concentration. Just going through here, we've got how is it going? How's it going, chat? Yes, yes, yes. Shout out to you. Shout out to you. Shout out to you. A sniper is under stress, but no strain. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, you're using mechanical engineering terms or something like that, huh? I like it. I like it. I like it. And then Covert Wolf asked, would you say it is easy to get yourself into the zone? That's like asking, is it easy to lift a certain amount of weight? Yes, when you get there. When you get there, 6 months from now, after practicing, yes, then you can do it. You can do it. Or that it requires consistent practice to get yourself there. You answered your question. 10 minutes of meditation to get into the zone. Yes, into the meditative state. And that's another thing about the practice, which we'll talk about later on in terms of what do you do? What exactly is it that you're doing in order to exercise this particular concentration here? Because over here, we don't BS. Okay, we do not BS over here. We're not just going to talk smack. you're going to be able to see in an intuitive way, just the same way you see, okay, my biceps, are contracting and expanding. Okay, this must be working on my bicep when I do this. Same thing you're going to see over here. Okay, that in order to develop something, in order to master anything, you actually have to exercise it. In other words, use it. It's a use it or lose it thing. And it's no different in the physical domain than the mental domain. It's no different there than here. It's the same thing, and we'll get into the actual practices, and you'll see, okay, yeah, it makes sense. In order to develop concentration, you actually have to use concentration, and you have to use it in a formal way. Just like doing curls, it's a formal use of your biceps, right? It's formal, it has a form, right? It has a form, it has a particular mode just being a shape, a right shape to take, and you do it, and you count, and you rest, and you do all that kind of stuff. So formally, you want to develop concentration, you're going to have to use your concentration in a formal way. And even if you've never meditated in your life before, you know that there's something about concentration being used formally when anyone is talking about meditation. You know there's something about concentration and being in the zone in which we've just kind of described, right? So, Prinsya says, hope I'm not jumping ahead too far, but what form of meditation do you find to be the most beneficial to you? Very good question. We'll talk a little bit about it. Indeed, 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 indeed. So, there are three things that meditation gives you. One is concentration, one is equanimity, and one is sensory clarity. We're going to be focusing on concentration today. First of all, as we are right now, talking about what concentration consists in. And we'll talk about a couple of domains: the physical domain, intellectual domain, the domain of craftsmanship, and so on and so forth, in which concentration is very, very important. We will find that it is the base of all control. Now, this thing here that I drew, this kind of relationship between focus and control, again, still just fleshing out how important concentration is and how diverse its manifestations are. Focus and control. Okay. We've all had that sensation where our leg fell asleep. Okay. And it has nothing to do with blood flow, by the way. It's a nerve. You pinch a nerve because you're in a particular position and then that nerve goes away. Okay. So what happens there is you can no longer feel your legs. Or you go to the dentist and they make your tongue numb, right? So you can't really feel. But you will immediately notice, and let me get a one in the chat, that when you cannot feel something, you cannot control it anymore. It's not that you cannot move your mouth up and down and move your tongue, but you need the feedback. You need the feedback from the feeling in your leg in order to walk properly. Perception precedes control. Attention, focus precedes control. You want to control something, you need to be able to perceive it. If you cannot perceive it, you cannot control it. Okay? Makes sense. Let me get a one in the chat again. The reason why you cannot walk properly when your leg falls asleep, it's not that you can't move it. You know you can move your leg, but when you put it on the floor, you do not get that feedback. When you try to move your tongue in your mouth, you don't get the feedback. When you try to bite something and your whole mouth is numb, you cannot control it. You don't know how hard you're biting, how soft you should bite. Everything works in this feedback loop where you take an action, you get a perception. The perception then tells you how you should adjust said action. That's how you walk, that's how you talk, that's how you think, so on and so forth. Without perception, you cannot control. Perception precedes control. In other words, focus, the ability to isolate something, whether you're doing something physical or you're doing something mental or you're doing something of an artistic nature, vis-a-vis craftsmanship and so on and so forth, you need to be able to focus. Now, we talked about this disaggregation aspect as well, which is a big aspect of coming up with concepts. Being a conceptual thinker, being somebody that can solve problems, okay? Being somebody that can solve problems. So we're going to take this thing here, we're going to talk about, let's say, physical, which is just physical prowess, athletic pursuits. We talked about the free throw. the zone in the free throw. You have to be able to isolate the parts that are necessary in order to execute that free throw, and everything else is relaxed. That's the idea of being in the zone. There is a hyper focus. It makes sense. When you're putting something in focus, everything else is in the background. When the sniper is there with his gun, he's not twitching his legs and everything is relaxed but his eyes. He is breathing in. He does not fire unless he's breathing out, because that's even when he's very, very more relaxed. When you breathe out, your body is in a dormant state. The only thing that needs to be focused is or shall I say, the thing that needs to be in use is the only thing that is in focus. That is a kind of a description of what being in the zone is. A relaxation coupled with hyper focus, not a kind of focus, which is not even focus at all. Okay? That's not focus at all. Physical, we talked about intellectual, and we'll talk a little bit about this kind of stuff because concentration is the base of any kind of intellectual pursuit. If you cannot concentrate, you cannot do anything mental. You might be able to walk still and do certain physical tasks, but you want to try to solve mathematical equations. You want to be able to think through the complications of a particular situation that you're in with your business or your life or so on and so forth. If you cannot focus, disaggregate, disambiguate, look at the different parts and pieces, come up with something as simple as a Venn diagram to see how these different things interrelate so that you can optimize, control, manage, design. If you cannot do that, without focus, you cannot do any of these things. So focus is the bottom of the pyramid. Concentration is the bottom of the pyramid for all these things you've talked about. Whether you're trying to grip something, you have to be able to focus your attention on your first three fingers. The rest is you're just there to kind of give some kind of shape and form. But this is where the grip strength lies. Not over here, right? Not with your pinky and your thumb, not with this guy either, but these three. That's where the grip strength is. I use the grip strength example because it's an easy and accessible way for us to understand that no matter what kind of a physical thing we're doing, when we're trying to go for physical prowess, whether you're doing taekwondo or you're playing basketball or whatever, the ability to focus, and athletes, that's why athletes know about the zone and so on and so forth, okay? Because there's something very, very analogous between meditation and exercise. They're just kind of like one and the same thing, to be honest with you, at the end of the day, okay? Meditation is an exercise of certain things which are not easily done simply by physical measures, okay? But if you do strictly physical things, you're going to tap into it because you're going to need to practice the art of concentration and relaxation anyways when you're doing certain physical things, especially when you're doing them at the peak, such as being a sniper or being a free throw master, just getting all net, all net, all net. Okay? So the third aspect here is what I will call, and if you are familiar with this channel, you know our word here, fit, okay, which is feeling, image, and talk, okay? This is the part, this has to do with your subjective consciousness, okay? Subjective consciousness. This is the part that goes neglected most of the time. It goes neglected most of the time. In other words, people know, okay, I got to train for physical things. I got to train for intellectual things. But how about training to be able to master me? How about training to be able to master me? You are a very complex, weird thing. How about bringing this thing called concentration, the ability to disaggregate, disambiguate, and see what's going on, right? How about bringing that to bear, okay? From here, we will begin to see how meditation helps and the kinds of meditations that could help. I'll answer that question that was previously raised about the ones that I find particularly helpful to me. It'll be intuitive in the sense that we know that in order to make something better, we need to exercise it. In other words, we need to use it and grow it, use it or lose it, right? So, all right. Do you believe you can accidentally get into the zone? Yes, you can actually get into the zone. You can get in the zone just looking at the moon in a beautiful beach somewhere. Okay? You can get into the zone doing that because there is something about a focus that comes over you, and also there's something about a separation of your subjection. Let's not get too complex with that because it's not about getting in there accidentally, because it could happen, but getting in there accidentally, finding the right in, you can get in there through inspiration is what I'm saying, right? If you know, whatever it is that you like, art can take you into the zone, for example, and that's the arts and the aesthetics. Therefore I mentioned, you know, maybe you like nice full moons over a nice coastline or something. You can get in the zone just watching that, if that's your bag, right? You can get in the zone looking at a beautiful woman. So subjective consciousness is the thing that is often neglected in terms of the practice. And subjective consciousness is where the meditation aspects of things tends to be then focused on in terms of how it is marketed, how it is perceived. Even though it's not necessarily stated this way, you know, subjective consciousness, feeling, image, talk, and so on and so forth. But this is how we talk on this channel. We just talk in language that everybody can understand. Okay. We're not going to be talking about your chakras and your unity and your this and your that. Not because those things don't make sense, but because those things have a different context altogether. You don't speak Sanskrit. We're not ancient Indians. So we should not necessarily think that we can speak in the same language and understand each other. But we know what feeling, image, and talk is. We know what focus is. We know what concentration is. We know what the ability to be able to disaggregate and disambiguate is. We know that attention precedes control in ways in which we can describe it, right? Exactly. I was going to talk about the knuckles thing too. Shozan, the two knuckles. Okay, you got to focus on the knuckles where the blow is being delivered. You know, it's not being delivered on this knuckle. Okay, all right. So in physical endeavors, people who are really good at physical things, they have this inbuilt ability to be able to focus on the right aspects of the system that is delivering what they need to deliver, and then relax the rest of it, because the rest of it is only an interference. Okay, the sniper's leg and his glutes and his whatever, all that stuff, he should not be, those are just interferences. Okay, even his breathing is an interference. Everything needs to be super relaxed, and he's just focused on the wind speed and those calculations and the barrel and all that kind of stuff. Same thing with your free throwing. Same thing when you're trying to study a difficult concept in mathematics. You need to relax. You're not going to get anything done by clenching your teeth. And that is one big kind of error, and something that you will begin to discover when you start meditating, is how much wasted energy we exert trying to do things, because we have certain habits like clenching our jaw. Clenching your jaw does not help you think. Clenching your jaw does not solve the problem, but you keep on clenching your jaw like it's going to help anything. And people get into this habit and they actually clench their jaw when they're sleeping and so on and so forth. It actually, these things will raise your blood pressure, it will release cortisol, you will die of cancer. Don't believe me? Of course you believe me. You know that's how it works. Okay? This is how people die of chronic stress. I could go deeper and start saying, hey, why should you meditate? Well, because you're going to live longer. But those will be implications of these particular skills that we're trying to develop in a very discrete way. We're going to discretely mention concentration, equanimity, and sensory clarity. We're going to talk about how it works. But you're going to begin to find out, especially when you start doing the exercises and the meditation, that, oh my God, The way I was living before, not only was it inefficient, it was killing me. I was just dying with my clenched teeth and my furrowed brows and my tight shoulders and all this crap for no reason. It does not help you. You're trying to snipe. At any particular one point in time, you're trying to do something. There's a particular activity going on. And believe me, it's nowhere near as stressful as a sniping activity. Okay? So there was somebody that said something that, the problem with modern people in terms of health is that they don't know how to do one thing. Okay? We do not know how to do one thing. Orlando Johnson says, yes, yes, a lot of people do it. People do it. It's a natural kind of action. It's good that you notice that you're doing it. The way in which you can stop doing it is to be able to create the capacity to be able to concentrate on the different parts of your body. In other words, you've disaggregated the feeling, right, aspects, which we'll talk about, right? The feeling which is in the body. Okay. You've disaggregated it into different parts. So now you know, oh, I'm doing that. Because if you are not able to move these things in and out of focus, if you don't understand what your system is, that you're not just this blur of activity, but you can actually break it down into at least these three: feeling, image, and talk. And that with these particular capacities, such as concentration, you can bring certain things into focus and out of focus. And you can check the body just like you would pull up your dashboard, okay, and check the gauges, okay? What is the jaw clenching gauge looking like? Oh, not good. Turn that down. What is the shallowness of breathing and the depth of breathing gauge looking at? Oh, breathing is shallow. We need to stop that. And also, it is a sign of something else. Whenever you find, okay, that the jaw clenching gauge is up and you don't even know why, you need to then pay close attention to things. Whenever you find that the shallowness of the breathing is low, or the breathing is shallow rather than deep, shallow is different for different people, but by the time you begin to do these kinds of practices, you're going to develop that dashboard. Okay, the ability to focus, disaggregate and disambiguate. Okay, you're going to create a dashboard. Okay, you're going to create a dashboard with different gauges that you're going to know. Okay, nothing particularly crazy. Okay, Mr. just said that yes, he does clench his jaw and he knows it. So there's going to be a gauge somewhere. It's going to be the clenching jaw gauge. And there are many, 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 many other gauges, almost as many as you have muscles that could be stressed inadvertently and unnecessarily in your body. There's all kinds of muscles going from your eye to the back of your ear, through the jaw, down to the neck, into the shoulders, that people are just stressing all the time. And I mean you and me. If you do not pay attention to those, you will just be stressing them all the time. Again, focus comes with relaxation. You don't think necessarily, because it sounds counterintuitive, that those two things go hand in hand. But with the free throw analogy, right, and the sniper analogy, we know, when someone is doing something at the highest levels, they're in the zone and they're doing something efficiently and they're actually being where we would like to be every day of our lives, every minute of every day of our lives, it's actually a very relaxed state. It is not a perturbed state. It is not a state of wasted energy. It is a relaxed state. So I was saying that basically we have seen how in the physical domain, in the intellectual domain, the ability to concentrate are fundamental, bottom of the pyramid type stuff. But that there is this aspect, okay, subjective consciousness, which is kind of left out. And people just kind of talk about it as in the zone type talk, as a byproduct of being a good runner, the byproduct of being a great basketball player. But not only these athletes can be in the zone. You don't have to be Lord Sushomaru or Goku. Shout out to Soul Provider Speaks. All right. You don't have to be, busting out Kamehameha waves or whatever in order to understand and get the benefits of this subjective consciousness thing, mastery of subjective consciousness. Because whenever we see the martial arts, We tend to see this aspect of things going side to side, that ability to master yourself and so on and so forth. Okay. But that's because of the physical route that they're taking. Okay. But you do not have to go there in order to live a decent life where you're not killing yourself by clenching your jaw and raising your stress hormones. And chronic stress kills. Acute stress is fine. Acute just means there's a spike. Okay. Oh my God, I almost hit this car in the freeway. Oh, I'm stressed. Okay, now I'm good. Acute stress is fine. You can go through that every once in a while. It's actually good for you. It's good for the psyche. A little bit of shock every now and then is good for the immune system. It's good for the psyche. It's good for your bones. It's good for your muscles. What kills is chronic stress, meaning constantly, day in, day out, a raised level of stress hormones, a raised level of tense muscle, a raised heart rate, a shallowness of breathing, a general miserableness of life, which is the state of the West, of the whole world, perhaps. Yes, I am saying that. I'm not. This is how people live. This is how people live. And this is how they die. So, why should you meditate? It should be obvious. So, concentration vis-a-vis mastery of subjective consciousness. Okay, let's talk about this disaggregating aspect. And let's talk about this clenching of the teeth, for example. So, what do I mean by disaggregating stuff? So, you wake up in the morning and you feel bad. Bad. Okay, that's a nice, simple one. It has no, it's very plain. Rather than ask, why do I feel bad? Ask what. So, with concentration and the creation of this dashboard is going to tell you how much of what, where, and changing at what rate. Okay, so the rate of change of something, how much of it, and where is it? And we're going to say that this is a focus that we're going to bring to bear on bad. That this bad thing that we're saying here, first of all, we're going to take our first step of disaggregation and disambiguation, which is feeling image talk. Again, I live and pray at the altar of fit, feeling image talk. I repeat it at least once every video. You guys are getting the idea now. And it's an intuitive thing. Over here, we don't talk nonsense. And for those who are new, basically what I'm saying is that anything that's going on with you at any point in time can be broken down into the feeling in the body, which can be internal sensations, which we call emotions, or external perceptions, or sensations of the organs, which we do not call emotions. It's just, you have you're feeling something inside. So that's the feeling aspect. And then there's the image in the head and the talk in the head. We know what that is, okay? In other words, what's going on in your head mentally, and then the feeling in your body is the entirety of anything that's ever going to be your experience. There is no other way of experiencing anything other than feeling in the body, image in the head, and talk in the head. That should begin to relax you a little bit. You should begin to understand that, okay, I can get a handle on that. Fly off the handle, if you will. I can hold on to the handle. If I'm feeling bad, let me ask then, what exactly is bad? How much of what? Where? And changing at what rate? So you can say, well, I feel a low level kind of throbbing, but low intensity throbbing feeling. It's uncomfortable around the chest area. Because trust me, again, there is no such thing as feeling bad without it being able to be described in here. It's not something in outer space. It's not in heaven. It's not some God pushed the button bad and you don't even know what it is. Just, oh, I feel. No, you're going to be able to describe it in the feeling, image, and talk parameters. How do you do that? You need concentration. You need practice of doing this in order to be able to say, rather than, I feel bad, you'll be able to say, I feel that throbbing here, and I notice a clenching of the jaw. Hmm. Now you can control. Focus precedes control, right? Because trust me, a lot of people, majority of people we're talking about, right? We know this. This is how just people just live their lives, whether they're smart or they're dumb. And as a matter of fact, the smarter they are, the more they tend to be unaware completely of this subjective consciousness aspect of things. So they wake up in the morning and they're feeling bad. And they don't even know that they're feeling bad because they don't even pay attention to anything. Everything is an undifferentiated mass. They just go through the motions and they're gripping the steering wheel while they're driving to work and clenching their jaw. And they don't know why they snapped at some point. Or they don't know why their shoulder hurts. Or they don't know why they did something stupid, made a silly decision, and went home with somebody they shouldn't have went home with later on that night. Why did you do it? Why? Bad. How much of what? Where? Changing at what rate? We noticed the jaw. We're going now to the description of somebody who's already doing this, okay? I'm not saying, hey, just wake up tomorrow and you're going to be able to do this. We'll talk about the practices. I'll recommend some stuff, okay? We'll talk about the practices and I'll recommend some stuff. But now we're having described first and foremost the domain within which concentration consists, what it consists in, okay? And then we say, well, these are the areas where you're you're learning in these areas and you're participating in these areas. Whether you're learning something physical or participating in something physical, you need concentration. Whether you're learning something intellectual or participating in something intellectual, you need concentration. And then that this part tends to be completely ignored, especially in Western education, which is you. The organism itself is completely ignored, and then you wait till it's too late and then they fill you with pharmaceuticals. And look, I'm not some kind of anti-big pharma conspiracy theorist bullshit kind of person. No, I'm just talking facts, right? I think that the the difference should be clearly stated. Again, things over here are simple, measurable, intuitive, and actionable. When I say X, you're going to know that I said X, and you're not going to be able to say it was Y, or so on and so forth. When I say that you're killing yourself by clenching your jaw, you're going to know that you clench your jaw and you grip your steering wheel and you don't know what bad feels like. And you're going to know that it takes concentration in order to do that, because you have had glimpses in the past of times when you have been able to disambiguate and disaggregate and therefore control and understand what exactly is going on, right? So this is not some nonsense about why you should be living a particular lifestyle or not. I don't like lifestyle talk. Lifestyle talk is for the birds, okay? This is about practical stuff. Therefore, stuff you should be doing. In other words, there's no excuses for this kind of talk. Lifestyle talk and universe talk and big pharma talk, you can talk about that all day and never do anything. Over here, when you hear these kinds of things, you're going to realize that you don't have excuses anymore, because you know exactly what is going on and you know exactly what you're doing. Therefore, you should act, act, act as soon as possible. Do what is handling anger and all that kind of stuff. So, feeling bad, or let's say anger, okay? Because anger is a very potent one, okay? The idea behind this disaggregation business is because we usually want control. Okay, nobody wants to be completely controlled by anger unless it's the perfect scenario where, you know what, you needed Hulk at that time in order to get out of that burning bush or whatever it was, right? But generally speaking, we need control. In other words, so we need focus. So we want to be able to disambiguate. This is true in physical systems, as we said. You want to be able to focus on the knuckles that deliver the punch, focus on the grip strength, blah, blah, blah. The sniper focusing, the free throw player focusing. That's how you control anything. That's how you execute at a high level. Okay? So now we want to be able to break things down in the realm of subjective consciousness so that we can focus and then control. So we said bad, but someone said anger, which is very, very key because that is one big time killer. Okay? It takes that chronic stress I was talking about, puts it at an even higher level. Okay? So understanding that anger has to happen in the body and in the head. Again, feeling, image, and talk fit. If you don't get anything out of most of the things I say, just remember that thing that, look, what am I? At any point in time, I am feeling, I am image, and I am talk. Nothing else. So I am angry has to be some combination of feeling, image, and talk. Feeling is very easily accessible. The great way to get into this, and now we will segue into meditative practices, which regardless of which particular meditation practice you're doing, breathing is the easiest starting point. Everybody knows this. Woosa. Everybody knows how to take a deep breath and do all that kind of stuff, but doing breathing exercises, which I'll describe one simple one in a second. But what I tend to do is called Vipassana meditation. Okay. There's this guy called Shinzen Young. Let me just write his name over here. Shin Zen Young. Someone asked about guided meditations. I find him to be particularly useful. So, anger. Anger has to occur in the realm of feeling, image, and talk. Anger has to be the operation of these three. So, you're going to notice what is going on. Why do I have to act? Why do I have to do something? Why can't I just notice? I can notice that my heart rate is going up. I can notice a heat in the back of my ear, at least for me. And that may be common. So I'm going to list certain things that are the manifestations in the feeling, image, and talk realm regarding anger. So usually in the talk realm, there's going to be some kind of a replay of the reasons why you should be angry. And it gets to the point where you actually even repeat it. Okay. Again, let me get a 1 in the chat if I am describing things that are the manifestations of anger within the feeling, image, and talk dashboard, which is what you are. You wake up in the morning, bzz, you open the operating system. What is the operating system? The operating system is feeling, image, and talk. Until you die, what is the operating system? The operating system is feeling, image, and talk. You should be able to get some kind of a handle on it. So, heart rate increases. You notice that in the body. Okay. Rather than just say, anger, I'm doing stuff. No, there is an observer always, which is what you will notice when you start practicing meditation, is you are not out of control. There is an observer who can observe the heart rate go up. There is an observer who can observe the temperature in the back of the ear go up. There is an observer who actually hears the repeating of the talk. That talk repeats so much that it actually then elicits our active participation. You start actually saying this stuff. And yeah, and then he told me this, and how dare he disrespect me that way? That's you just repeating the talk that's coming in your head. If you keep your mouth shut, you just hear the tape in your head. So first thing is you should keep your mouth shut and just listen to the tape because it's less real that way. Using real in a particular sense, which I know you understand. It allows you to create separation and allows you to control the situation that way. Don't start parroting what's going on in your head. Don't parrot it. Shut up and just listen to it. You should be the master of your own domain. There is no reason why these evil spirits, to use ancient type of terms, should be controlling you. I don't know if it's a spirit or not, but there is a voice in your head for sure saying all kinds of smack and repeating the smack that was supposedly said to you by somebody, and that's why you're angry. But guess what? That voice is not you. You can't actually observe it. The raising of the heartbeat is not you. You can't actually observe it. The heat that you feel in the back of the neck is not you. You can't actually observe it. The fact that your fists are clenching is not you. You can actually observe it. And guess what? You can release and you can breathe in. You can hear. And you can just feel the back of your ear get hot. And as you breathe, you can reduce the beating of your heart. Why do you actually have to do anything because of these evil spirits? I'm using that for rhetorical effect. Why? Why are you possessed? You don't have to do anything. You can focus, you can isolate, disambiguate and disaggregate, control, and be relaxed. And in this way, you can have self mastery, mastery of subjective consciousness, which is my favorite phrase. It is something that underlies everything else that you're going to want to do. You want to be quote unquote happy, whatever happiness is, because that's just another big ball. Bad, angry, happy, like whatever. What you want to be is you want to be the observer, because the organism is going to be doing all kinds of things. It's like the organism, or let's say the weather. The weather is going to rain, it's going to snow, it's going to be windy, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. What you want to be is the thermometer and the barometer and all that stuff that simply just watches the weather go past. You are the weather. Why do you think you're any different? You're in a physical universe, you're a physical system, you're just doing, it's just happening. It's nature, that which happens of itself. That's the definition of nature. That which of itself is so or is such, you know, the which of which there is no witcher. Basically, all these aspects, waking up on the wrong side of the bed, feeling bad, feeling good, feeling elated, all these kinds of things is just like the weather. You need to be the thermometer and the barometer, the windmill. You need to have these gauges on that dashboard we described. These are not abstract things I'm saying, because each step of the way, we have been hidden ones on the chat. And I've been saying things that are, again, intuitive and simple to understand. I have not said no highfalutin woo-woo stuff about laws of attraction and what you put out into the universe, you come back into. Okay? That's where people go waste their time. We aren't wasting our time over here. We want to get shit done. And when we talk about mastery of subjective consciousness, we actually want to be masters of our subjective consciousness, not just talk about it. So, anger we described. It's a very simple one. I got ones in the chat. Feeling bad, though, and those other kinds of amorphous feelings where you don't really know, it's not necessarily anger and so on and so forth. Well, how do we do that? How do we take care of that? I mentioned breathing, okay? Breathing gives you access to the body, and breathing is also something that can be automatic or controlled. So it lies in this nexus point of what is automatic in your body or in your consciousness, and also what is controlled in your consciousness, right? What is can be controlled by your consciousness. Okay, so breathing gives you that. So what were we saying? We were talking about being able to disaggregate and disambiguate vis-a-vis feeling image talk, vis-a-vis subjective consciousness. We're not going to go too long. How long have we been going already? Because I know time tends to fly while we're having fun talking meditation, concentration, contemplation, spiritual stuff, but in a very measurable, simple, intuitive way. Okay? So, interesting. Avo calls. I'm going to have to call him back. Now, we're going to wrap up by talking about the ways in which the meditative practice helps to increase your concentration. I already gave one particular, and I'm going to say it again. Shinzen Young, Shin, Shinzen, Zen, and then Young, just young guy, right? Shinzen Young is a guy that does guided meditation type stuff. I listened to him years and years ago, kind of like pre-internet. There was internet, but where, kind of pre-social media. So I don't know what his content is like these days. Oh yeah, Shinzen. Oh, Shenzhen. Yeah. There you go. I don't know what his content is like this day in terms of audiobooks and so on and so forth, or seminars or blah blah blah. But I know he's still out there and he's still doing stuff. And his stuff resonates with me in the sense that it's very, very, very clear in terms of here's the input, here is the output. Not a lot of fluff, not a lot of ethics. Okay. If ethics are mentioned, it'll be in the way in which we just talked, the way I just spoke with the caller, which is, oh, I'm going to notice I'd be able to see why you were more understanding is because you were the weather measuring instruments in yourself. You develop that capacity, and now you're going to see the weather in other people rather than see them as these entities, as this big aggregate things which are not disambiguated and getting mad at them. No, you just get mad at the breeze. And then you realize, oh, I'm not going to be getting mad at the breeze. It's just the breeze. As a matter of fact, I observed that same breeze with me yesterday. That breeze was blowing. I was watching it. Same breeze is blowing over there. I'm just going to watch it. Right. So he does not moralize. Okay. And this is a personal preference of mine. I just don't want moralizing from other people. Because I think that technique is more important. Give me the mastery, give me the tools, and then we know what to do. Then we know how to be compassionate. We know how to not judge and so on and so forth, because it's almost gonna fall into place. It's gonna be like a nice little Rubik's Cube or whatever. It's gonna be like Tetris. The things are gonna fit correctly. It's gonna feel right to be less judgmental, because it's going to be good for your hormones and you're going to be able to feel that. You're going to be able to know how to act. And then also you're going to be able to know how to harness your dark side. Take anger, for example. Okay. So the idea is this: you can be controlled by anger and then you can be scared of it, just like a knife. Okay. If you don't really know, if every time you pick up a knife, the knife just does all kinds of crazy stuff, you're going to start getting scared of the knife. And then the mistake people make is they start thinking knife is bad. You start thinking anger is bad, or you start thinking any particular configuration of feeling, image, talk, any weather pattern. If we stick with our weather analogy, we start getting scared of weather patterns. And we start thinking, oh, certain weather patterns are bad and we don't want those. But guess what? The idea of meditation is you create this separation, create this watching person, okay? Create the weather instruments so that you can separate from the knife. And now you can actually pick up the knife rather than be the knife, and then you can use it, okay? Because integrating, quote unquote, your dark side, the anger side, or whatever it is that controls you, lust, for example. If lust is controlling you and anger is controlling you, the mistake people make is, rather than go in, observe what it is, disaggregate it, disambiguate it, focus on its individual parts so that you can then control it, and then pick up lust when you need to, pick up anger when you need to, and put it down, and it doesn't burn you, doesn't cut you, you can surgically use it. That's where mastery really lies, in the realm of the dark side. But we're not talking about the dark side yet. For our Sith lords out there. Is Soul Provider Speak still in the house? Yeah, he knows about the dark side. Now, Vipassana meditation, using your breathing, access point to the body, it is the segue between what is automatic and what is controlled, in the sense that your breathing can be automatic and it can also be controlled. There are very few things that are like that. Your heartbeat is automatic. You cannot control it, only through your breathing, though, right? You cannot just go there and like, I'm going to stop for 2 beats and I'm going to pump harder. No, it doesn't work that way. But breathing is that thing which is the segue between control and automatic. And also, it's a great way to access the body. In other words, you want to know how your body is feeling. You take a deep breath, Okay, and for certain very simple physical reasons, you feel your body more because the air goes in there, it pushes certain muscles. You know, you feel whether your how your spine is, how your back is, so on and so forth. A lot of the feeling that we're talking about happens in the torso area. Okay, the feelings associated with bad or anger, so on and so forth. It's usually not happening in your toes. Okay, you don't get angry in your toes. Tend to be in the torso area, right? So you breathe in, simple exercise. You wake up in the morning. Before you get out of bed, turn, lay on your bed, lay on your back. Don't cross your feet, okay? Don't cross your feet. You're going to have an urge to cross your feet. That's just another distraction. You're going to notice 10,000 distractions. The last caller mentioned listen to music all day, but there are 10,000 distractions, one of which is crossing your feet when you lay down that way, okay? Trust me, that's what it is. Uncross it, all right? And then breathe in, pick a count. The more you do this exercise, the deeper your breath is going to be. I like to count 10 times. Okay. Four, maybe you can do four. So you breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you hold 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you let it come out. The breathing out is not active. Okay. It just deflates. Okay. Atmospheric pressure will push the air out. All right. Just like letting go of a balloon. Atmospheric pressure pushes the air out. You don't have to force breathing out. Breathe in, count 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4. Atmospheric pressure pushes it out. What you pay attention to is the relaxation of your body each time the out breath happens. Each time the out breath happens, watch, okay? Neck is getting relaxed, head is getting relaxed. Let me give you one more specific thing. Since this is being asked and it's not like, we're doing a guided meditation here, I'm going to put maybe a couple more things on the plate and then you can go ahead and pick and operate as needed, right? So, one thing that I do is I focus on the left side of the body, let's say. I'm breathing in and the relaxation that I was talking about paying attention to. I only focus on the relaxation on the left side of the body. Let's say for 4 breaths. In 1, 2, 3, 4, hold 1, 2, 3, 4, out 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 1. In 1, 2, 3, 4, hold 1, 2, 3, 4, out 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 2, right? I do 4 breaths and I'm just concentrating on the left side of the body. Again, in order to develop a skill, you got to use it. In order to develop your muscles, you got to use it. So in order to develop concentration, you have to use concentration. This gives you concentration. It also is giving you the sensory clarity in able to disaggregate your body from this lump of something into feeling image talk, and you're focusing on the breath, right? One side of the body, in, hold, out. And then you go to the other side of the body, in, hold, out. Keep breathing that way. You can alternate left side, right side, left side, right side. A great place to start. There are going to be 2 more parts to this, and in terms of my short series here on meditation. Okay. Everything I do is about meditation. Everything I talk about is about meditation. All my topics are about meditation, whether I'm talking about Plato's Republic or whatever. It always circles around my little feeling image talk. Shout out to Shinzen Young, by the way. Okay, fit feeling image talk. But this, I wanted to answer a simple question: why should I meditate? What is the utility? What is the value? Okay, and there are 3 things we're going to talk about. Concentration is today's video. Tomorrow, or maybe a couple of days from now, we're going to talk about sensory clarity. And then finally, we'll talk about equanimity, or maybe we'll flip the order. Who knows? But there are 3: concentration, sensory clarity, and equanimity. Okay. You breathe in, you hold, and you breathe out. Do it before you go to bed because you got to sleep anyways. You're already in bed. Okay. And it'll help you go to sleep easier. Okay. And then notice again, you notice the relaxation of the out breath, and you'll start to notice how much tension you're holding in your body, even though you just woke up, even though you thought you were relaxing in your sleep. But we know for those jaw clinchers, we know that people clinch their jaw while they sleep. People grind their teeth while they're asleep. People are stressed even while they're asleep. Okay? So, like I said, the problem with modern people is they don't know how to do one thing at a time. We don't know how to do one thing. Your life always, at most of the time, you're just needing to do one thing, but we have a difficulty doing one thing. Being in the zone is the ability to do one thing. That's why I say you can get in the zone through aesthetics. If you're really absorbed with looking at the sunset, beautiful sunset on the beach, you're going to get in the zone if it's your right particular, if that's your bag and things are just right, right? Because you're focused on one thing and everything else is relaxed. You're doing the free throw, you're perfect in free throw, you're in the zone because you're focused on what needs to happen with the free throw, everything else is relaxed. You're a sniper, you're really good at sniping, you're going to be in the zone because you're focused on one thing, everything else is relaxed. The ability to focus, isolate, disaggregate, disambiguate, and while still being very relaxed is the whole idea of being in the zone. And meditation is the key to do this. Why doesn't every man study this? I know. I think you know the answer to that. If you have asked the question, then you already know the answer. On crossing your legs, lowers one's blood pressure. Wow, I didn't even know that. I didn't even know it lowers your blood pressure, but I just knew that it was a distraction. I knew intuitively that it was something that I was doing that was not a good thing. Okay. Shout out to EG in the house. He said, shout out to Ike. Okay. Dang, I've been crossing my feet when I lay down. Hey, it's not, it's not a sin. Okay. We don't crucify people over here. But the idea is the more you're able to understand yourself as a system, the more you're able to understand your subjective consciousness, the complex of feeling, image, and talk, and all the different interactions of feeling, image, and talk in order to manifest these things that we call bad, anger, moody, this, that, elated, whatever, stressed out, blah, 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 right? The more we're able to understand the arrangements and see them as weather patterns, while we are just the measurers of the weather pattern, the better we become at being unperturbed, unpossessed by spirits, and actually be great users of certain tools like anger and like lust and things that you may think are bad. The knife is not bad. You just not knowing what it is and just cutting yourself and cutting other people and stabbing your kidneys all the time. That's what was bad. When you separate yourself from the knife, able to focus, disaggregate, disambiguate, understand the knife, and you can pick up the knife and you can be a surgeon. And that is what you're trying to do. That is what meditation does for you. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for showing up again. Definitely appreciate those who contributed in the Cash App and every one of you who watches. Please share the video. Okay. Hello. Shout out to L Boyd. Shout out to Jessica X. Shout out to Nicer in the house. Shout out to everyone in the chat. How's everybody doing? I hope we are all well. I hope we are all feeling relaxed. I hope we're all having a good day today. I hope we all had a good day today and we're going to be having a great night or an early morning regarding or regardless, dependent upon where you are. So this is the second part in the series that I'm calling Why Should You Meditate? And this second word, okay, this word equanimity is not very commonly used, okay? It's not very commonly used. But really it's about mental calmness, composure, right? Evenness of temper, so on and so forth. But really it's about balance and so on and so on and so on. The last stream we talked about concentration. We said meditation gives you the ability to concentrate. Concentration is about focus. It's about being able to isolate, disambiguate, disaggregate. We said that focus and perception precedes control. We talked about the ubiquity of the utility of concentration, that it is the base of the pyramid in many, many, many endeavors, whether it be physical endeavors or intellectual endeavors, artistic and aesthetic endeavors. Okay? We talked about why concentration is important, not only in this particular domain, but also in the domain of subjective consciousness. That you need to be able to isolate, disambiguate, disaggregate, and focus and concentrate in order for you to be able to forge the tools of self-mastery. And we talked about how meditation does that. So go back and definitely watch that video, okay? That video. Rocky N, you're correct. Rocky says athletes, soldiers, and people in power use different meditation, different types of meditation. Okay, usually under different names. Exactly. So you've heard Mike Tyson talk about meditation. You heard Kobe Bryant tell you about meditation. Snipers, we know, are in the flow state when they're doing their thing. There's something about excellence in all these domains. As they say, success leaves clues. Okay? When you keep hearing the same thing over and over and over again, from CEO types all the way to Iron Mike, they keep saying the same kinds of things. Well, maybe there's something to it, right? Maybe there's something to this meditation game with regards to excellence of all kinds. Maybe it does indeed form the base of the pyramid upon which everything else is built. After all, in order to master anything, you need to be able to master yourself, the instrument that does all these different things. So today we'll be talking about equanimity. And as usual, we will talk about it in a way that allows us to elucidate and illuminate the word by putting all kinds of other tangential and related words around it and describing it so that we can put context around the way in which the particular context in which we're talking about equanimity. Okay, so let me go about it this way. Why is equanimity useful? Equanimity is useful first and foremost, okay? This is a very simple one, is because it is the flip side of concentration. And if you watched the previous stream, which you should definitely go back and watch after this one, the one about concentration, you would see that we touched upon this, that there is a virtuous circle, a snowballing effect, a mutual reinforcement between concentration and relaxation. To use that word relaxation instead of equanimity in this particular case. In other words, if concentration is focus, focus implies that you relax everything into the background and you only bring forward that which needs to be focused on. If I said, hey, focus, a lot of people, or the first step that you usually take is to go, okay, loosen up, breathe, relax, let me focus, right? Let me get a one in the chat if you understand so that we don't dwell upon this particular aspect for too long, because this is just a throwaway line here. The first part, why is it useful? Why is it useful? It's because it's the flip side of concentration. Previous video, we went for almost 2 hours about concentration, okay? What it is, its utility, how it crosses many different domains, how meditation actually does help it, and how it is absolutely necessary for all kinds of endeavors, whether they be physical, mental, but definitely for mastery of self, mastery of the feeling, image, and talk complex. So let me get a one in the chat if it is relatively clear that relaxation is the flip side of concentration. Hence, you can start from concentration and then you immediately get relaxed. If I told you, hey, concentrate on the sound, the furthest sound that you can hear. Listen to the furthest sound you can hear. You immediately relax. You get rid of all the superfluous activity, all the superfluous energy or distractions, and you bring to the forefront that which needs to be concentrated on. You focus, in other words, you separate, you disaggregate, you disambiguate, and you relax everything else. So concentration brings forth relaxation, and relaxation brings forth concentration. Okay? So that's the first reason why you want to develop this ability to be equanimous, to be in a state of equanimity, to be in a state of relaxation, to be in a state of ease. Okay? So that one is straightforward. Very straightforward. El Boyd says the mini fridge in my room. I hear it. Indeed, indeed, indeed. So, what is another aspect? And this aspect here, number two, we're going to call balance. And we're going to immediately throw in an analogy, a visual, something that'll help us understand this. And what I mean, or what I'm going to throw in here is, let me see if I can write it in a different color. Floating, okay? Float, to float, to float, to float in water, to thread water, okay? We all know that you cannot thread water, you cannot float without being relaxed, okay? So this balance aspect that we're talking about here, not other than just being, okay, it's the flip side of concentration. Why is it also useful? And how do we start begin to see how it can spread across many domains? Well, this aspect of balance, well, when you think balance, okay, we think, well, many things, yeah, balance is good. Balance in my life, work-life balance, balanced budget, balanced diet, balancing on one foot. So let's talk about balance. Let's talk about equanimity vis-a-vis the visual of swimming and floating. There are several aspects to it that I would like to touch on. Okay. And one of it is harmony. Okay. In order to float, you do not fight the water, right? If you fight the water, you're going to drown. In other words, you have to be in a state of oneness, if you will, in a state of oneness with the water. Don't fight the water. So now let's immediately relate this to the domain which we know we're talking about. Obviously, we know that all the capacities developed as a result of meditation apply to mental activity, physical activity, but the base of it all is in your subjective consciousness. So let's take it there. In order to float, you need to be in a state of equanimity. If you fight the water, you will drown. You need to flow with the water. There is a give and take. You need to be in a state of harmony with the water. So I'm going to put one word here, okay? Harmony. And how does this relate to the feeling, image, and talk? Okay, we all know our favorite word, right? Our favorite three words, okay? And we put it into one little tight little box here, fit, feeling, okay? Feeling, image, and talk. And for anyone who's new to the channel, this is our subjective consciousness. Everything that ever happens to you, everything that you are, everything you will ever experience can be parameterized, can be described as a combination of feeling in the body, emotions, and perceptions, and then image and talk in the head, which are the realm of thoughts, the realm of dreams, the realm of mental activity. They affect each other. Pain in your back will cause images in your head and talk in your head. Talk in your head will cause you to clench your teeth and raise your heart rate. Raised heart rate will cause you to have anxious feelings, which gives you thoughts in your head about, well, who's looking at me? And then that'll cause you to sweat. In other words, feeling, image, and talk. Okay. The entirety of subjective consciousness, the entirety of everything that we're trying to master, the thing that causes heartache and elation and joy and makes you want to kill yourself and also then makes you want to live, everything is feeling, image, and talk. So, in the realm of feeling, image, and talk, the ability to be equanimous with it is, we have to create this analogy here with the floating, whereby we're floating and we're being one with the water. Over here, the feeling, image, and talk trifecta is the water. Yesterday or the day before, whenever we did the concentration episode, we talked about, we used the weather analogy. We said feeling, image, and talk, it's just like the weather. that you want to be the thermometer, the barometer, and the windmill. You want to be that which watches the weather, because miraculously you can actually watch yourself and you're like, oh, so I am not feeling image and talk. I can actually watch feeling image and talk happen. What am I? It doesn't really matter what you are. But the point is this: this is like the weather, this is like the water, okay? Feeling is going to rise, image is going to counter, talk is going to happen, all these things are going to happen, but you want to be able to be balanced in there. We're still just describing, painting the landscape of this word equanimity. As we paint the landscape, we get intuitions as to why this is useful. We also begin to understand, because we are no strangers to the word meditation, why meditation is applicable in this particular domain. We will at the end mention some more meditative practices, but this is not a guided meditation, and this is not about meditation practices actually, right? It is the answer to the question why you should meditate, part 2, equanimity. Okay, and we explore in a way that looks at the concept from many different facets. And as we explore, we gain intuition. And as we see the intuition gives us the idea of the utility of the particular word here being equanimity. And we can see how it is related to the concept of meditation. Okay. So, shout out to Mission Man in action. Mission Man. No, Mr. Man, sorry. I saw action. I saw an M in the beginning. Mission Impossible. Missing in action. Eh. So, there is another thing underneath this balance aspect here, which we are floating around the idea of floating, because it's a great visual. It's a great analogy. We all get that there's so many things in life that in order to do them well, you actually need, as a matter of fact, everything in life. There is nothing in life that you do well when you're not relaxed. The peak of game, the peak of aesthetics, the peak of being cool, let's say, and the peak of being a very good sniper, the peak of being an expert free thrower with all net, all net, all net is like floating. Okay, so let's talk about the fact that when you have equanimity, you're also way more efficient. We can stick with the water. You do not expend superfluous energy. Any kind of energy that you're expending that is extra is counterproductive to the art of floating, let's say, to the art of equanimity. Okay? Equanimity, floating. Being one, being in harmony with, in this case, your internal feelings, the images in your head, and the talk in your head, requires you not to grasp onto anything, not to cling onto anything, not to exert any extra energy, which then causes a vicious circle of a panic attack, or you went crazy, you went buck wild, or you started screaming at him or her, or you started freaking out and you got anxious, so on and so forth, because you were expending extra energy rather than being efficient and floating, rather than being the watcher, rather than being relaxed. We're beginning to see how it is very important, therefore, to exercise this particular capacity of equanimity and relaxation. Because A, as we said, it is the flip side of concentration. Concentration is super important and ubiquitous in terms of its utility. We go back and we watch the other video, and then we come down here and we're talking about balance now. And we talk about floating. And we've talked about how floating is analogous to being in harmony and operating in unison with both the internal and the external environment. So The internal environment and the external environment will be just like the water. Someone is screaming at you, or maybe you're screaming at yourself in your head. Okay? In that case, we have image and talk acting up. Then you have feelings in the body. There's a tightness in your chest. There's a clenching of the jaw. There's a shortness of breath. Okay? If you remember floating, you know you don't go fighting the water. You don't go fighting the clenching in your jaw with more clenching. You don't go fighting the talk in your head by acting out or trying to block it or whatever. Neither do you have to respond to the external stimuli in any way other than the most efficient way. You need to be able to float with it. Because we all adults here, we all have, at certain times anyways, the opportunity to exercise this particular capacity called equanimity. We all have the capacity to do that. So that's why we have built the intuition to understand what I'm saying. That's why I don't have to kind of tell you exactly why it is better to float with the storm of feeling, image, and talk than for you to fight it. We all know that when you fight, when you cling or resist, you always lose. You're trying to cling on to something. You're trying to resist something. Oh my God, here comes the thought. Here comes the feeling. I don't want the feeling. It's like, no. The feeling is like the weather, ladies and gentlemen. It will do what it does. You could just simply watch it. The heart rate will rise and it will drop. If we use anger, okay, your heart rate will rise. The back of your ear will get hot. There will be words in your head about how you were just insulted. It'll be chattering away like a monkey. But you could just sit there, grab your popcorn, okay, and watch the show. Like, oh, okay, it's talking. Oh, here goes the heart. The heart's going crazy. If you fight it, you will drown. Because we're adults again, we all know this, okay? But we can only get glimpses of this. We don't have full mastery of it because we do not exercise it. We do not actively, formally take in particular modes and so on and so forth. And this active, formal, and modal way of doing things will be meditation in this particular case. Okay, you want to develop a particular capacity, you need to exercise it. It's a use it or lose it kind of world when it comes to the world of organisms. You don't use your muscles, they will atrophy. You don't use equanimity and concentration, it will atrophy. How do you get to use them? Okay, not all of us are, golf players at the highest level who also do sniping at night and are professional taekwondo fighters. Yes, those people are exercising a whole lot of concentration, equanimity, sensory clarity. Okay, they can be in flow state in and out, and then they can apply this to different areas in their life. And then after they leave the Navy SEAL, that they can then go and train CEOs on how to do this. But for everyone else, we need a formal practice, and this practice is called meditation. Capiche? That's all we're trying to say here. We're going to have a whole 4-part series trying to drill down on this idea that you actually do need meditation, like the breathing or the feeding or food, clothing, and shelter, and all these other things that we find to be basic needs. Meditation, the developing of these capacities, sensory clarity, equanimity, concentration, and the last part, which I'll call the space for freedom, which would be the most abstract part. It would be the last part of this series. We need these things. We need them. We need them. We need them. Oh, Boyd says true. And Rocky N says people that meditate tend to not be affected as much by external factors influencing their life. Some people are governed by external factors. It's raining, so I'm sad. Oh, it's sunny, so I'm happy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you for breaking it down to very, very rudimentary and simple to understand levels. Okay. But guess what? External factors are one aspect. The internal factors are the ones that'll get even the very well trained. Okay. You may be able to ignore the rain and ignore the people cutting you off on your freeway and so on and so forth, and you're floating and you're at one, you're operating in unison with the external factors. But when certain internal things get triggered, and the key word there is trigger, because we have things that are recorded, you have memories that are recorded, especially when they go through the emotional path. Emotions are the ways emotions form stronger memories. That's why music and certain smells and things like that tend to cajole you into thinking about certain times. Okay. When those things get triggered and you see that particular thing that makes you remember that particular time, and then all of a sudden the tape starts rolling in your head and all the stress responses start happening, then what do you do? Do you know how to float in that situation? Do you know how to be the observer? Do you know how to create the space for freedom? Do you know how to have an equanimity in that situation? We're talking about why it is desirable, why you want to have equanimity in that situation. We already know why we don't want to be affected by the weather. We already know why we don't want to be going on emotional roller coasters. Feeling, image, and talk are like the weather. They will do what they do. There will be storms and hurricanes and winds. It's going to happen. It should happen. It's what it does. It's why it's there. It's a physical system, like any other system. It'll do what it does. But what are you going to do about it? Are you going to be able to be in balance and flow, be in harmony, be efficient without clinging and resisting? Okay? That is Shozan, man. Shozan in the house. Shout out, shout out, shout out. It says, damn, I'm late. No YouTube notifications. Yeah, 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 yeah. YouTube. YouTube is weird like that. So there is a natural order that is induced, okay? A natural order. Let's just put it here. You're in the water. There is a natural way in which you should interact with the water for the floating to occur. There is, and by natural, I'm using natural here in the sense that it is that which occurs of itself, that which occurs naturally, that which is of itself so. You don't have to do anything about it. There is only one way to float in that water. The water is doing its thing and you're doing your thing. There's only one arrangement, one mode, one formation. There is a natural order, okay? Not an artificial order, but a natural order. Either way, there is order, okay? So, under this balance thing with the flotation as our focus, we have been able to see, okay, elucidate more and more into this simple idea of equanimity, which I could have just said, oh, it's relaxation. We want to be relaxed. But there's always a whole lot more that goes into capacity such as this than meets the eye when it comes to mastery of subjective consciousness, which is about mastering feeling, image, and talk, which is all that we are, all that we ever are, all that we ever will be, all that we will ever experience. Now, the near-death people, when they come back, they do talk about kind of having some kind of extra experience that is realer than feeling, image, and talk. But we'll get there when we get there. Okay. I'll see you on the other side and we'll talk about, wow, it's not just feeling, image, and talk anymore. There's like seven other dimensions of experience. But while we're here on earth and while we're human beings, all we got is feeling in the body, which is emotions and perceptions, and then image in the head and talk in the head. That is the operating system. When you open your eyes in the morning, when you boot up the computer, that's the interface. That's your user interface. That's how you get information, and that's how you get inspiration, if you will. That's how you're driven. Your drives go through feeling, image, talk. All right. So there is an order to this. Let's talk about another thing. Let's say number 3. Okay. Let's say number 3. What is number 3? Young Swift in the house. Young Swift in the house. Showing up fashionably late. Number 3 is something that we can all identify with. And I'm just going to say fear and anxiety. Fear and anxiety. Okay? Fear and anxiety. This is something we do not like. We do not want to experience. But guess what? We can use equanimity to desensitize ourselves, to become one with, if you will, or should I say to sensitize ourselves, to become used to the fear response. Because fear is a response that goes on in feeling, image, and talk. Okay? And it could be the fear of novelty, for example. We're usually afraid of things that are new. Correct? So you can practice becoming used to via meditation. Okay? Now we're approaching the actual exercise of meditation. As I said, this is not a series about discussing meditative techniques and so on and so forth, even though, we can ask and talk about those. Last video, part 1, we talked about the breathing exercises as a conduit through which you can begin to develop the concentration and equanimity and so on and so forth. But if you become very familiar via meditative practices with feeling, image, and talk, you're going to see, okay, fear is arising because of a novel situation. Rather than freak out about it, you're just going to be like, okay, cool. When the clouds gather and it's the right time of year, it tends to rain. So when I'm in a new situation, a little bit unfamiliar or so on and so forth, the fear response begins to happen. It begins to rain a little bit of fear. Do I need to do anything about it? No, not really. I can be the observer. The observer, the creating of the observer is the last part of this on the series, which will be part 4, which is that creating of space for freedom, which I've alluded to a couple of times. Familiarizing yourself with the feeling, image, and talk complex will show you that no matter what it is, in all its different formations and manifestations, you can have this thing here called the observer, okay? Just draw the little observer person, all right? You can be the observer and you can stand and you can just watch. You can watch feeling, image, and talk happen, okay? You can be separated from it. So, anxiety, again, maybe a tightness in the stomach, okay? It's a feeling in the body, right? With your ability to float with it and be one with it and to create a natural order, not to try to resist the tightness of the stomach. Look, life is not magic. The universe is quite intuitive, okay? We evolved here to kind of understand it very, very, very well. So the tightness in your stomach is not magic. It's tightness in your stomach. I don't know if this is making sense. In other words, and let me get a 1 in the chat if you understand what I mean when I say this. Let's say we take anxiety because we used fear before, but now we used anger before. But now we're talking about fear and anxiety. And we're breaking it down into its constituent parts. When I say it's not magic, do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm getting at? Do you know what I'm trying to dispel? Such that, in other words, it's just tightness in your stomach. Okay? It's not magic. It's not lightning bolt from the gods. It's tightness in your stomach. You don't have to fight it or cling to it or run away from it or freak out about it. Okay, the stomach is tight. Okay, the heart rate is going up. Oh, this must be a new situation. It's novel. Okay, it's new. I have a little bit of anxiety and a little bit of fear. Oh, what else is going on? Let me check the image and talk realm. Oh, there's some kind of distraction going on there. There's tapes playing. Okay, good. Where's the popcorn? It's a good show. No clinging. No resisting. Being in unison with the internal and external environment, which with whatever weather pattern is manifesting itself as it would and as it should in this universe of ours. We are very, very unskilled with dealing with the weather patterns in feeling, image, and talk. We can be very skilled and be very okay with, oh yeah, I don't have road rage. I can deal with other people acting this, that, or the other. But what happens when the weather starts acting up internally? Then what do you do? The ability to create this observer character, okay, that gives you a space for freedom, a space for observation, a space of separation, whereby you can watch yourself happen rather than quote unquote be the happening. You can actually go back to, I'm just consciousness, I'm just an observer, and I'm just watching stomach getting tight. Can I do something about stomach getting tight? You can actually do something about stomach getting tight, which is kind of loosen it up a little bit. Breathe from your diaphragm. Loosen up your neck. Make sure you're not clenching your fist. Make sure you're not clenching your jaw. Heart rate going up. Take deeper breaths. Okay? Do I have to fight this, resist this, run away from it? Scream? No. How do we develop this capacity? We develop this capacity through meditation. There is no reason why anybody should not be meditating. Again, someone mentioned earlier, athletes, soldiers. When we see excellence, warriors, top golfers, Mike Tyson, Kobe Bryant, when we see everybody that is at the peak of their game telling us the same thing in different forms, come on now. And granted, I don't like the woo peddlers, okay? So to hell with Deepak Chopra and all his books. Can gather all his books and go burn them in hell, okay? And all the other crystal carrying, chakra talking BSers out there, okay? I don't care for them at all. So let's stop that from being an excuse why you should not do what's practical. So, oh no, I don't deal with that BS because that BS is for, those BS people, and Deepak Chopra doesn't know what he's talking about. And yes, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I know, but doesn't mean you should be a freaking idiot either, right? It's excuse making. So I'm going to step off my soapbox again and we'll continue the lecture. All right. So we talk about fear and anxiety. What's up? So providers, yeah. I got some smoke for some. I got some smoke for some people, for some woo peddlers. I have smoke for crystal carrying hippie chicks who also read tarot cards and tell you about your chakras and this and that and the other. Okay. With chaotic and ridiculous lives. In other words, they just talk. They talk. They talk. They're not really into the discipline. They're not really in, they don't know what the hell they're talking about either. They could not break down feeling, image, and talk. equanimity, sensory clarity, concentration, how they interact with each other, how you develop these particular capacities, how it leads to the development of this particular character who gives you the space for freedom as the observer. No, they'll tell you about all kinds of nonsense all day. And a lot of you niggas out there simping for them. I know you. I know. But let's not go there. Let's not go there. Let's not go there. A lot of you love those hippie chicks, don't you? All right. So, a quick recap before we move on. Part 2 on the series about why you should meditate. It develops certain capacities. Part 1 was about the capacity to concentrate. Part 2 is about equanimity. The first thing we mentioned about equanimity is that it is the flip side of concentration. In other words, if I told you, concentrate, concentrate, you loosen up, you breathe, you remove all superfluous activity, you bring to the foreground that which needs to be concentrated upon, and you relax everything else, like a camera. It relaxes and it softens the image in the background, right? And it focuses, it sharpens the foreground. In other words, focus and relaxation go hand in hand. You can start with focus and then you get relaxed. You can start with a relaxation and then you can choose to focus. But relaxation is the background. Okay, it is the petri dish in which concentration consists, in which concentration exists. You want to concentrate, you need to soften the background. You need to soften the superfluous and focus on, separate, disambiguate that which needs to be concentrated upon. Right? So that's the first thing we mentioned about that. And then we went into the swimming analogy, the floating analogy, the being one, operating in unison and in a natural order with the internal and the external environment, using the external environment or the environment that is as the water. And then we segued into the feeling, image, and talk. The feeling, image, and talk, which is your subjective consciousness, is the part that we just, especially in the West, we're all Westerners out here, brought up in the West, and we are not taught how to deal with our subjective consciousness. We're not taught how to deal with feeling, image, and talk. How do we swim in that water? How do we swim in that milieu? How do we not cling and resist and push back and cause all this stuff? Okay, how do we actually do that? We do it through meditation, ladies and gentlemen. We do it through meditation. And then we talked about fear and anxiety as just something to focus our minds. Understanding that the fear response is a response to novel situations. We're not going to use the acute kind of terror, okay? The dragon busts through your window at night or that kind of situation. Okay. We're just talking about anxiety, which is a response usually to novel situations. Novel situations that maybe you're expected to perform or around new people or something like that. Something is new. If you are a master by having acquainted yourself with all the different manifestations and formations of feeling, image, and talk, all the different weather patterns which your subjective consciousness takes, then you're not going to be all freaked out by the fact that your stomach tightens, because you're going to know that it's just like a cloud passing by. Oh, goes the heart rate going up. You don't freak out when you see a cloud, do you? You don't freak out when you see a waterfall. You don't freak out when you see a stream doing what it does. Why are you freaking out at your heart rate? Why are you freaking out at the tightening of your stomach? Why are you freaking out at the heat developing in the back of your neck and your ear? Why are you freaking out at the silly tapes that are running by when you get triggered? No, it's just like a weather pattern. But all these I'm saying right now are just words. You will never be able to do it until you actually practice. I cannot tell you how to bench press. Pick your weight, okay? Whatever weight is, that you feel like, oh my God, that's a lot. We can talk about it all day and why it's useful and why you want to do that and your back and your this and the forms you should take and how you should do it and what you should eat and how you should be hydrated and so on and so forth. But meditation is very, very, very akin to exercise. It is an exercise within the realm of feeling, image, and talk, though, an exercise within the subjective consciousness that and your training capacity, such as concentration, equanimity, and sensory clarity. Okay. So until you actually do the practice, it doesn't work. But I wanted to create a 4-part series, okay, for posterity, for all of eternity, here on YouTube. Just drilling down why you should and taking away all the excuses. All your excuses why you're not doing it. You will not be able to compete at the highest levels, ladies and gentlemen. Trust me. If you don't have your subjective consciousness game right. And if you got it right, you got a secret weapon that people never see coming. They never see it coming. So, number four. Number four is a very simple, intuitive, straightforward one. And I've been messing around with the lighting here to kind of make sure that this contrast works before I get my writing tablet, because I'm going to get a writing tablet, or maybe I'll get one of those electronic whiteboards where I can kind of write here and erase, or maybe I'll get a writing tablet that I can share on the screen. But while we're doing our low-tech stuff here, I think today has been my best contrast. So, health is number four. And I think that it is straight up, okay? Straight up in terms of understanding. Everything that we've talked about so far shows us how not having equanimity can lead to increased stress, an early grave. Many people die. No, most people die of chronic stress, heart disease, cancer. I don't know, call it whatever you want to call it. It's all just manifestations of chronic stress because you were clinging and you were resisting and you were clenching your teeth and grinding your teeth at night and freaking out about stuff and participating in the weather that has no reason for you to participate in, being very inefficient with your actions. A constant, and we all know what chronic means. Chronic is not a spike. Chronic is this constant mid-level phenomenon, and it's horrible for you. Spikes are fine. Oh shit! What happened? That's fine, right? Oh, I thought I saw, I thought I saw Sub-Zero try to attack me or something. Try to use his deep freeze move on me or whatever. That's fine. A little spike here and there is actually a good thing because we know that systems, complex systems, actually need some disorder. Okay, evolution, your muscles, your immune system, your psyche, it all needs disorder. And you can watch some other video where I elucidated that particular concept in depth. I forget the video now, but we talked about, yeah, it was the video on streams of income. Streams of income where we created a dichotomy between versatility and efficiency, and we show how they are related to fragility. And we introduced a concept called anti-fragile, whereby we said complex systems such as your muscles, the ecosystem, the economy, your psyche, your immune system actually thrive in disorder and die in order. They atrophy when there is no randomness, no chaos. Okay, so spikes, that's what that whole tangent was about. Spikes are fine. Spikes are wanted. Chronic is horrible. you just chronically having a tight neck, gripping your steering wheels, driving to work, not knowing how to float kills you. I'm not saying something theoretical here. If you're watching this stream, you're probably above average intelligence. So you know what I'm talking about when I say chronic stress is killing everybody. Okay? And it's probably not a good idea to say, oh, well, people, if you're watching this stream, you're above average intelligence, because we may have some dummies come in here and be like, oh, this is not for me then. Well, then go away, please. So, health, very, very, very important. Okay? Shout out. Let me see if there's what you guys are talking about. Okay. I get stress spikes when I watch The Ring. The Ring. Is there a series now, or was it that one movie, The Ring? And how many times are you watching The Ring? Maybe you need to stop watching The Ring. Or is that kind of a little exercise thing that you do? L Boyd says, LOL, we're smart. Shout out to Soul Provider laughing probably at the Sub-Zero thing. We all know he's smart. Yeah, he's a double N. So we don't want this to be too long. I always say that. I always say we don't want these things to be too long. But before we close it out by talking about the last item and then and then doing a recap, if anybody has anything to say, anything to ask, I'm currently spamming the chat with the link. Nicer wants to know what double N is. Tell her so. She's got one word, one part right. I think she just got the other part now that I mentioned. The other part is the N word. the N word. Number 5, ladies and gentlemen. Number 5 is the icing on the cake. Number 5 is the icing on the cake. Figuratively and also quite literally, in the sense that number 5 is aesthetics, my friend. Aesthetics. Equilibrium is beautiful. Let's start from the very abstract, and then we'll bring it into human activities and things that are more visceral and can be intuitively understood. But equilibrium is very beautiful, especially unstable equilibriums. So you've all seen the rocks. Look, a pile of rocks is just a pile of rocks. But it is very engaging when you see those piles of rocks that look like they should not be, right? And I believe the thumbnail for this video had one of those. I'm not going to go through trying to find it right now. Shout out to EE in the house. Let me get a one in the chat if you guys understand what I mean when I say equilibrium is very aesthetically pleasing, even from a very abstract level. Okay, abstract meaning general, that we can think about different levels of equilibrium, whether it be a ballet dancer or a nice structure that demonstrates how it's being held up by the fact that you see maybe there's this thing over here and it holds up this other thing over here, and then there's some whatever and some nice architectural thing and it's holding up this big ball, and wow, that's beautiful. Okay, now we all know about those rock formations. I was going to try to find a video, but maybe I can draw one of those where we see people pile up rocks in ways that look kind of improbable. So there is something about unstable equilibrium. For the physics nerds out there, we know that there are two different kinds of equilibrium, okay? And since I can't help myself, I just have to explain what I mean by unstable equilibrium by giving some kind of visual, okay? So if this is some kind of mountain, okay, and you have a ball, okay, over here, this is stable equilibrium. It takes a lot of energy to knock it out of equilibrium, okay, to go up or down, right? But you can balance that ball, okay, right there on the razor's edge and keep it balanced. Up, leave it there. That's unstable equilibrium. If you knock it to either side, it'll fall off, okay? So two different kind of this is a high energy one, as you can kind of think of, potential energy. If you're thinking about something in the gravitational potential, blah, 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 right? So unstable equilibrium has an aesthetic appeal to it just in and of itself. I don't know why, but you guys, given the ones in the chat, have the same intuition. There is something just aesthetically pleasing about equanimity, especially when manifested in the form of unstable equilibrium. A tightrope walker, for example, that's exciting. It shows prowess. It is beautiful. A ballet dancer, ice skater, balancing on one leg, doing all these kinds of twists and turns and all that kind of stuff is beautiful. All these things require equanimity. Okay. All these things require equanimity. Hence, I said we're going to mention the abstract, right? We mentioned it in the abstract. And a little gift for you guys today, which is the gift of the abstract gift to you is unstable equilibrium is aesthetically pleasing. So maybe when you're in the LA Museum of Modern Art and you're next to one of these hippie chicks and you try to spit game and she says something and you can turn to her and say, yes, the unstable equilibrium is quite aesthetically pleasing. So we're going to move that into something that is a little bit more in the realm of human activity, as should I say, your day-to-day activity. What is cool? Cool is everything that we've been talking about, okay? And again, this is number 5. It's aesthetics. It's the icing on the cake, okay? It is the icing on the cake, quite literally, because it's aesthetic, and also figuratively, because the cake in and of itself is the ability to be in unison and not cling and not resist and so on and so forth with the internal environment, which is feeling, image, and talk, and also the external environment, which affects the internal environment, right? So the actual work, the actual capacity is the cake, the equanimity. The icing on the cake, the manifestation is cool. And everybody likes cool. People want to be around cool. People are going to find you pleasing to be around. People are going to think that you got your shit in order. Because you do. Not because you're faking it. Not because you're out there watching YouTube videos and some silly dating coach is telling you nonsense about how to be cool. Because you're a freaking idiot. Because you know that mastery of subjective consciousness is the be all end all. and you're actually trying to get shit done and leave a dent in this universe. And therefore, you're going to practice, 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 practice. And then when you come out, people will be like, wow, he's so cool. That's just an accessory. That's the afterburn. That doesn't even freaking matter. But I'm going to mention it as an icing on the cake because I know that aesthetic things are very important. I am not an anti-aesthetic kind of person. You may already know that. I made a whole video about it. Plus, I'm always here with my tie clips and my matching colors and shit. And I'm into music and the arts and so on and so forth. The aesthetics are an outward manifestation of human prowess. Aesthetics, real aesthetics, okay, and real recognize real, okay. Fake people can be fooled by fakes, but who gives a damn about fake people, okay? But the real recognize real, and aesthetics is an outward manifestation of human prowess. And everything that we've mentioned as to why you should meditate, and we developed this cake, and now we're saying that cool is literally relaxed. Cool is literally equanimous. Cool is literally efficient and in unison with the internal and external environment. And that it is, in and of itself, very, very attractive, aesthetically pleasing, and calming to everyone around. You want to influence people? You want to persuade people? You want to close the deal? You want to get her number? What are you trying to do? You will find that the development of these capacities will have as a byproduct all the aesthetic frills that you want. But by the time you get there, you're already going to know that that's not the main thing. Thankfully. So that you can keep ahead on the main path of mastery of subjective consciousness. And everything else flows from that. And if you're a greedy capitalist like me, then the first thing is get that freaking money, right? Get that freaking money flows from that. I want to be efficient 16 hours a day. I want to close that deal. I want to kick your ass in business. I want to get as much money as I want. That's why you guys need to hit up the Cash App. So that's one thing. But there are many other aspects that come from it. Many, many other aspects that come from it. And the icing on the cake is the aesthetic appeal. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've done very well on time today. I saw something about guilt, something about turning the other cheek, something about being the bigger person in the chat. Okay? Brea C, I'm reading. I believe in reciprocity, but I'm still being affected by the be the bigger person teachings. My anger is not as productive due to the guilt. How do y'all get over this mindset? Guilt, just like anger, is another weather pattern phenomenon. Okay. And when the guilt comes, you need to be able to handle it so that it is not something that causes you to not do what you need to do. Now, here's what I'm saying. I'm addressing the guilt side of things first before I talk about how you pick up effectively the anger. Because guilt, like many other things, is going to happen. If you're not a psychopath, okay, if you're not a psychopath, you're going to feel guilty even when you do the right thing. So, Bria, see if you're still around, or maybe if you're watching this later, what I'm saying is this. Even when you do the right thing, when you know you should have disciplined the child, you, you whatever it is you did in order to discipline that child, and you know it was appropriate, you're still going to feel guilty. Using the disciplining the child analogy as an example. But with many, many other situations, okay, you're still going to feel guilty even if you do the right thing. If you're not a psychopath. So, what do? Guilt is just another thing to observe and to have equanimity towards. In other words, don't allow the fact that there's a feeling in your body and an image in your head and a talk in your head to talk about being the better person and turning the other cheek and so on and so forth, and many, many misinterpretations of things that Jesus said, for example, because I don't really think that many things that he said are interpreted correctly. Well, it makes sense. No one really interprets most things correctly, anyways. So, not blaming anybody for that. No smoke for nobody. But the fact that there's a feeling in your body, the fact that there's an image in your head and a talk in your head about you being that we call guilt, okay? And it takes many different shapes and forms, okay? It's going to take shape and form in the feeling, image, talk trifecta. You developing the observer character that watches it is going to help you not, is going to help you suck the magic out of it, is what I'm saying. So that you know that you should discipline the child even when the next time comes around and you're going to discipline the child correctly or do whatever you needed to do or pick up your anger and use it. And then you will still then feel the weather pattern come through called guilt after that. And it's just going to be okay. So you're going to pick up the anger, you're going to use it, you're going to put it down, and then the weather pattern is going to come through and it's going to pass. And so the ultimate answer, therefore, is you have to develop the sensory clarity, the equanimity, and the concentration. In other words, meditate in order to be able to create this observer character that fuse this thing so that, and let me get a one in the chat, Brea, if I'm coming across, or let me get some feedback so that you are not clinging or resisting guilt or clinging or resisting other behaviors as a result of not liking the feeling, image, and talk associated with what we call guilt. The danger, well, let's not go into okay. There is a danger in developing this thing, but the thing is, it doesn't really, as I said, if you're a psychopath already, and you don't have to worry about a lot of this stuff. Okay. But you're gonna build a certain level of intuition. Okay. I see a one. Thank you. You're gonna build a certain level of intuition that knows, okay, I was in balance and I was swimming with the wave. This crazy wave came, this wave of somebody doing something wrong. I needed to act, I needed to pick up anger, I needed to pick up something. Maybe I needed to pick up lust, whatever it is that people associate with the dark side. I needed to pick it up and I needed to wield it, and I wielded it masterfully. Okay. And because you did that because you were the observer, you were watching yourself floating in that water of anger. Okay. And then it was done, and then you left, and then there will be the fog of guilt that comes over. And then you just watch that fog the same way you would watch any other activity which you've described. Let's say the anxiety. I said, okay, some kind of a tightening of the stomach. Tightening of the stomach is not magic, it's just your freaking stomach. There's no need to imbue it with magical powers. Let it go. Raising up the heartbeat, let it go. Tapes running in your head about what your mom told you is just a tape running in your head about what your mom told you. The observer, the eternal observer, okay, can always take a step back and watch that. All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. Yes, Rocky N said desensitizing yourself to using assertiveness is hard due to society wanting people to to be sheep and keep harmony and so on and so forth. But it is also very necessary. Okay, carry, speak softly, but carry a big stick. Sheathing your sword, but knowing very well how to use that sword is also very important because a sword is useless. Okay, it's actually dangerous if you don't know how to use it properly. So I used the knife analogy in my last stream on concentration. Say people look at the dark side, okay? And they're afraid of the dark side because it's like a knife they don't know how to control. Every time they pick it up, they end up stabbing themselves and their mom, okay? So they run far away from it. But a world without knives is ridiculous, okay? You don't open a drawer and then you look at the spoon and you say that's a good tool, and you look at the knife and you say that's a bad tool. No, a knife which does violence, the purpose of which is to do violence, is a very important part, a very important utensil, just like your teeth or whatever. You don't go and say, oh, well, this is a good tool, that is a bad tool. This is, it's like, no, that's not how it works. This is kindergarten level stuff I'm talking about, right? Which is, tools are not good or bad, depending on how you use, right? So, running away from the knife, running away from your anger, running away from your competitive nature, running away from your ego, running away from the fact that you think you're a god on earth or something like that, not knowing how to pick it up and use it at the right time will leave you impoverished, and you live an impoverished life. And I don't mean impoverished in terms of material stuff. You're just not going to be living the right kind of life. You're not going to be able to use the knife, which is necessary to be used. Okay? So, but the point is, this is not just an intellectual exercise. The point is, go start meditating so that you can master your subjective consciousness, so that all these different weather patterns are going to become tools, implements that you have at your disposal. And when you want to relax and just pick up the popcorn and watch the show, you can. Okay? You can. And maybe one day I'll make a stream for dudes vis-a-vis dealing with the emotions, the images, the talk, and the whole chaos that comes along with interacting with women. Not because of the women, but because we are different and we don't really know how to do it. Okay? There is a whole thing to what I said about never arguing, because you have to understand what exactly is going on. And it is rarely ever about words or patterns of words, right versus wrong or logic. It is usually not about that. It is usually all about mastering yourself. A lot of times when it comes to why men fall flat on their face when dealing with a woman on the other side. We men amongst ourselves know how to do it because we all have a line which we never cross. Because men don't argue with each other, and that's why we're not skilled at arguing. Men know that there is a very small barrier between you and me, and that once we cross that, it's now violence. We already know where it's going. There is no need to exchange words back and forth. There is no scene with two grown, actual red-blooded men going back and forth with each other, arguing. That's not how the world of men works. It immediately starts at here. It's either 0 or 1 with men. It's 0 or we're fighting. It's simple, in other words. Hence, we don't understand all the various gradations of social interaction that involve a lot of back and forth and dancing and arguing and this and that. And it does. And my thing is, don't go into that world. It is not your place. You don't know how to do it. There's something else you should be doing. And that's going to be another stream. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Shout out to SOBC in the house. Shout out to L Boyd, as usual, always holding it down. She says, true, Ike, you have to weigh the actions and consequences as well. SOBC says, absolutely 100%. Any home without a father is a danger zone. Yes, 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 yes. We kind of know that. Yes, 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 yes. And you cannot emphasize enough that the way men interact with each other is very different. We don't have all these gradations and gray areas. It's either 0, which means we're cool, or 1, which means we're fighting. We're not going to be tolerating anything in between that. There is no you talking and me responding and you pushing this button and me pushing that button back. No, it doesn't work that way. So whenever you step into that arena, you lose. And you also diminish yourself in her eyes. So I will go ahead and exit now. We took a very sharp left curve at the end here, but I'm glad we did. Shout out to Shozan for bringing it up. We started talking about the dark side, and we started talking about men and their interactions and their ways of dealing with the dark side versus the way women deal with the dark side. And that causes a whole lot of consternation because men don't know how to do the gradations because we only have 2 levels. Our interactions are very simple. Okay, I'm talking to SODC. We're either cool or we're gonna stab each other. There is no in between. Okay, there is no I'm gonna push his buttons. He's gonna push my buttons back, and then we're gonna go talk about each other. No, okay. So it is fair that a lot of men have a lot of difficulty talking to women, interacting with women, dealing with women in the social sphere, and understanding, especially in intimate relationships. Intimate interpersonal relationships with women can be very tough for men and also tough for women too, right? But this is because we have very different ways of interacting. Men don't know anything about the gray area. We do not do the gray area. With women, it's all kinds, 50 shades, dare I say, of gray. Okay? 50 shades of gray. And we do not know how to do that stuff. And I advise men not to step into that arena. You need to know, master your domain and know the tools that you use and keep it there. Our tools are the tools of boundary setting. That's what we do. We don't play well in that other arena. You're never going to win there. You're just going to look like an idiot. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, quick recap, and then we're out. We're talking about why you should meditate. This is part 2. We are talking about equanimity. We're talking about floating, balance, being at ease, being one with the internal and external environment. We talked about the fact that it is a counterpart to concentration, and therefore it is implicitly valuable. The flip side of concentration. We talked about the balance aspect. We talked about the fact that it is good for your health for obvious reasons. We talked about the fact that it allows you to control the fear and anxiety response, making such that you are not clinging or resisting. And then we close it up with the aesthetic aspect of things, which is, hey, guess what? When you have this capacity, you're actually cool. You are the cool kid. And you make other people feel comfortable, and people want to be around you. You're a pleasure to be around. You're pleasant to be around. You get what you want. We mentioned here, and this would be the conceptual nugget thrown into the pond today. We mentioned that equilibrium, especially unstable equilibrium, which we analogized over here with this ball tittering here, balanced up there. Unstable equilibrium is naturally aesthetically pleasing. And we gave that as a tidbit to those of you guys who like to go to museums and sound cool at cocktail parties. You can talk about unbalanced equilibrium being naturally, intuitively, aesthetically pleasing. So why should you meditate? Part 2, because of equanimity. Okay, so go out there and fight the battle within.
regardless in the war. The legions in our hearts, shed waters in our balls. The spirit and the flesh, the emotions that arrest. The cerebral will contest, propelling the unrest. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded. The teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. With the semblance of a blaze, with gratitude and rage, we touch another page with delirious delight, impervious to light. This vitality and might encourages the flight. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded, the teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. The world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within.